It's once again time to go over this week's game update, but before we get into Forestry, apparently last week we missed the release of the Halloween event. This year's event is pretty much going to be the same as last year's. The reason that we're repeating is that Varlamore is going to be one of the biggest launches we've had in Old School, plus we have Leagues 4 right on the horizon, and some time and effort is being put into the quality of life changes that are coming to Chambers of Xeric. So it looks like they do want to continue the short story driven holiday events, but for right now, Halloween as well as this year's Christmas events are apparently going to be repeats. So for the season, we get to go trick-or-treating again. You again collect the treats doing skilling activities, or just by talking to the NPCs. Again, we want to fill up the community cauldron with as many candies as we can, but it looks like they made the targets easier to reach for this year. Most of it's going to take place in Varrock, but like last year, there will be a few NPCs littered around the world that you can talk to as well for the event. Even though it's a repeat, we do get some brand new rewards, and like all holiday events, there are no prerequisites, so anybody can join in. Alongside the Halloween event, they also updated the Bond Pouch interface. Looks a little more streamlined to see how many you have in your inventory, your bank, and your pouch, as well as moving and transferring them between, and a little bit of a new look to the buying and redeeming screen. For the list of changes, it is more accessible buttons for withdrawing and depositing multiple bonds, highlighting the number that you have in your inventory as well as your bank, some additional warnings for Ironman, updated info about usage and acquisition, and text and readability improvements. So yes, they just made the screens look a little bit better. Other tweaks include in the settings menu, you can choose whether the compass option to look north will also adjust the vertical angle of your camera. I know the main reason that I don't click the compass in order to look north is just because it does adjust the vertical angle, so this is definitely good for me. Camfrina and Lorelei now recognize Trim Rune Defenders whenever discussing their Cyclops rooms. And Vesta's Blighted Longsword and its Bounty Hunter counterpart are able to be used in Clan Wars Free-For-All. We also took some time to recognize the community around Crack the Clue 3. The board inside the mysterious old man's house has been updated with all of the names. I'm assuming by winner they mean the one who solved the final step, and that was Spider 1357. Other accounts that were able to help solve some of the steps along the way. And a nice shout out to the Crack the Clue Discord. A survey for what we would like to see on the return of RuneFest. A slightly confusing card game that I've never heard of before. Top Trumps. I guess the way to play really is choose a category on each card out of their varying options. You basically choose the category that you think will win against your opponent. So using what's on screen as an example, if you go by combat level, Gerardor cannot beat Vorkath. But if you go by year added to the game, Gerardor can beat Vorkath, if you choose that earlier release beats older release. He also ends up beating Vorkath in his boss kill time as well as his height. For more merch, we have the first of 3 new novels coming out, and another Smite collaboration that ended up happening a few days ago on October 24th. So last time we got the Gnome Child, King Black Dragon, and the Wise Old Man, and now we get General Gerardor, Sandwich Lady, and Generic Adventurer. More PvP world rotations, but these are old and outdated now, so we'll move on to the blog that happened just yesterday. Forestry in its completion has finally been released into the game. With part 2 coming in, we've got 5 new events that can happen during Forestry. The Friendly Ent, the Beehive, Pheasant Control, Poachers, and the Enchantment Ritual, as well as seeing a rework to the Leprechaun. For the Friendly Ent, it looks like you just get a few miniature trees that end up spawning, and they want a fancy new haircut. You can either do this by interacting with an interface, or just by right-clicking and choosing the action. Looks like completing it will do the usual wood cutting experience and bark, a random assortment of leaves, some fletching XP, and you can get a chance to get an egg nest. For the Beehive event, a temporary beehive will spawn in, and all you really have to do is just add logs to it. Use any kind of log on the incomplete bee boxes to build them up. Rewards are based on quantity, not quality. It'll give some construction experience for each log added, and the normal woodcutting XP and anima infused bark. In the future, this event will also have the chance to give bee box parts, which we can use to build a bee box in the player-owned house. It's harder to implement than they thought. It won't launch with this week's update. We're hoping to see it with next week's update. And then we have Pheasant Control. This one seems fairly simple. Pheasant nests will spawn. Only one of them will not have a pheasant on top of it protecting the eggs. Go to the unguarded nest, grab an egg, hand it over to the forester. This event can bring you the pheasant outfit as well as the pheasant transmog for your beaver pet, and you get that one by getting the golden pheasant egg. So since it has the pet transmog, this is definitely one of the few events I will be looking to try to get the pheasant spoon in my forestry kit to actually do. As well as our next one, poachers. This is the one that deals with the foxes. Instead of us trapping them, poachers are showing up to try to capture them, and all we have to do is intervene. Again, since this is one that has the transmog for the beaver pet to turn it into the fox, I will be grabbing trap disarming kits to put them into the forestry pouch in order to spawn it for the chance to get it. A player will click the trap, everyone around has a short period to join in and interact with it to contribute to disarming it. The foxes will get injured by being too close to the trap, but they won't die, they will just scamper off to lick their wounds. So you want to make sure to disarm the traps before they run away. This one gives XP and bark based on every trap, as well as a larger chunk at the end of it. And if you're lucky, you can run across the fox whistle, which will turn the beaver into the fox. And I really want to get this pet. And for our last new event during forestry, all you have to do is stand on the odd symbol out, and repeat until the ritual is complete. Looks like we get the same anima bark as well as woodcutting XP, but also the chance to get a wearable petal garland. And now not only can the leprechaun deposit logs straight into your bank, but he will summon rainbows that you can interact with. They grant additional XP, but they will also give you the chance to get anima bark from simply chopping trees. So it's nice to see a buff on the leprechaun. With part 2, we also get some new rewards. Not only the items that are used to spawn the new events, but the two-handed axes are now released into the game. All you have to do is pick up a felling axe handle from the store, use it while you're standing next to an anvil, and it'll turn your axe into a two-handed axe. Two-handed axes are the only things that rations are going to be used for now. Each chop will drain some energy to use the axe, as well as on each chop using some rations to restore your run energy in order to keep using the axe. There's also now the sawmill voucher, which will double planks for every log that is used at the sawmill. They also do work with the make plank spell, and they are only consumed if you have the space. The Twitcher's gloves give you a 10% chance to receive any type of bird's nest. And it looks like finally we have the cape pouch, which if you have 99 woodcutting, you can use your cape with the forestry kit now because you're able to store it inside of the forestry kit. I think this should have just been a free add-on into the forestry shop rather than being another purchase since you already took the time to get 99 woodcutting. I don't see what the 2000 bark and 25 willow logs are going to add to that. And we've also now got campfires in the game. Instead of lighting lines, you can just dump them onto the fire. They give about roughly a third of the XP per log, and ideally with the time taken, Jagex wants it to be about 50% less XP per hour than just lighting lines. And the thing I like that they haven't mentioned is you can actually rest at the fires as well now, so you can just take a nice little sitting break with your friends. So everything that's been added into the collection log is the woodcutting cape pouch, Twitcher's gloves, the felling axe handle, the pheasant outfit, as well as the 2 pet transmogs with the fox whistle, and the golden pheasant egg. All versions of the forestry kit and its changes can now be stored inside of the POH. All leaves are now stackable. Mulch now has different inventory icons depending on how much you have. And the struggling sapling event now gives farming XP that is based on your farming level, as well as the potency of the mulch that you use. There's now an added feature that lets you withdraw logs straight from the basket or the forestry basket right into your inventory. All you have to do is check on your basket, or if you're like me, you can continue to just use the item while you're in the bank interface and empty in from there. They've seen a lot of talk of people wishing to be able to deposit directly into the bank while gear is equipped on your person. They are still discussing the feasibility of a change, but do hope to update us in the near future. So that's everything with Forestry Part 2. It feels like a little bit of a lot, but it's really not all that much. It's just nice to have an active few things to do while you're woodcutting, as well as rewards for the skill other than just experience and your level increasing. But moving on from Forestry, we have our Shooting Stars update. This was discussed as one of the news posts that I've missed while I was away, but we're here now. So it looks like now stars will only spawn in between tier 6 and tier 9, so no more 1 through 5. So it seems with this change, if you are under 60 mining, you don't necessarily want to be scouting stars for yourself, but you want to hop on ones other people are already using so that way you can join in as they deplete it a bit. In order to make degradation more consistent, each star tier now lasts for 7 minutes, as long as it is actively being mined. With this change, a tier 9 star is going to last for about an hour and 3 minutes, which is a bit less than what it was at 86 minutes. The experience that you get is no longer dependent on the level of the star, but purely 32 XP every time that you obtain Stardust, as well as the chances of obtaining Stardust now scaling with mining level from 29% to get it at level 1 to 46 at level 99. I don't mind so much the experience thing, that doesn't bother me, it's more so that this seems like this is going to slow down Stardust gathering, but luckily they decided not to change the prices that are in the Stardust shop, so it's not too bad. And if you think it is too bad, remember that you can now, instead of waiting on more stars to fall for upwards of an hour, you can consistently be hunting stars and always mining Stardust. And there's a few more small changes. Clue scrolls are able to be obtained from mining the shooting stars again. Stars in Prifddinas will no longer give crystal shards. This is mostly to help with the worlds no longer lagging from people jumping into stars that land on Prif. And they have disabled random events and cannons in areas around the stars. And lastly, note that stars begin to land 20 to 50 minutes after Game World Reboot, and then every 90 minutes after that. So this means that they will be on a cycle to where pretty much there will always be a shooting star available to be mined throughout the game. They've also made a change to Last Man Standing. If you have an active spellbook swap at the beginning of the game, it is now cancelled whenever you go in. And from last week, there is now a change option on the Cobweb Cape to turn it into the more familiar Web Cape. For another merch update, we actually have something that I'm fairly interested in. The RuneScape official cookbook gives a few of the teaser pages, table of contents, the few baked potatoes, shrimp tacos, and the stuffed snake. Like we just mentioned covering the Halloween blog, the Smite collaboration is now officially out. And to finish off with our game update palooza, we have the current PvP world rotations. Like normal, if you're interested in this, feel free to pause the video here, take a look and read over. And that's going to sum us up for our game updates over the last 2 weeks. If you made it this far into the video, do me a favor and leave a like as well as a comment down below discussing some of the changes. And like normal, have a good day, you guys.